Hello my fellow board gamers, I am Taylor with Meeple Madness Review, where I give you open and honest reviews to see if these games are good enough to be on your table. Today we are talking about Tsuro. Tsuro is a game for 2 to 8 players and takes about 15 to 20 minutes to play. The point of the game is to win, and you win by being the last one on the board. So let's open up the box and see what's inside Tsuro. Alright, so here we go. First off, we have this little piece of rice paper. This is Tsuro on a Game of the Path, and this is just basically all thematic. It doesn't really have a purpose at all. Next we have the rules. Now this rule book is rather unique. It has material that is more like cardstock than paper, so it's going to hold up really nice. It plays very well into the Asian theme, and it has very clear explanations and good diagrams on what you actually do. Now this game board is going to get covered up during the course of the game. It has some nice illustration there. We have multi-language rules. So although the main rule book was just in English, we have rules here in Spanish, Portuguese, German, French, all sorts of different languages. Next we have a dragon tile. This is going to be on the bottom of the tile deck, and when the deck runs out, this dragon tile is going to go to the person who would draw a tile next. So that is going to come into play. It's a very interesting component, nice artwork, and all of the tiles are really good cardboard stock. Next we have path tiles. Now there is one tile for each square on the board, and these have different paths on them. Now the point of the game is to stay on the board. So you're going to have your piece on the edge of a tile, and then it's going to follow that path to the other edge. When a tile is laid in front of it, it will continue that path. And there's a bunch of these, and I don't think there's very many copies of tiles, if any. They all seem to be unique and have different paths on them, which is kind of cool. The artwork has that brown texturing behind it. It keeps things interesting, and it's very clear to see where the different paths are. And finally, there are player tokens. Now green here is my favorite, and if you look closely on the tile, it has a little dragon etched onto it. So these are very good pieces. They are built of a good plastic. And that's everything that you get. Board, tiles, rules, and player pieces. Now let's figure out how to play. Now this is what the game looks like when it's all set up. Each player is going to start on a different hash mark along the board. Note, not in between the hash marks, but on a individual hash mark. You can place them anywhere on the board. I would recommend that you start out in equal setting as much as you can, although you don't have to. I can start right here if I so desire. And each person has 3 different path tiles that they start with. The remaining tiles get put in a stack after they're mixed together, and you have that dragon token underneath it. Now this game is very simple. This is basically as easy as it gets. You play a tile, you move your piece, you draw a tile. It is that easy. So, let's say that green moves here. I place this tile down. Now when you place tiles, you have to put it in front of your piece. You cannot play a tile on anyone else. It has to go right in front of you. Now let's say that gray was on this tile right here. In order for me to put on a tile here, I can mess with their path. I can look at it and I can put myself in a straight line, and I can manipulate them with the path. Now this game gets more interesting when more tiles are on the board and people start to get close to each other. That way when you play a tile in front of you, it could mess with the path of the other person. Now, if you run into each other, both players are out of the game. And if you go off the board, you are out of the game. The object of the game is to be the last one remaining on the board. Now the only weird rule about this game has to do with this dragon token. After the stack of tiles is on the board, whoever would draw the next tile, say green, since I have 2, everyone else has 3, I would have the dragon token. And the next person to go out of the game, I could choose what tiles they have left. Say black leaves the game, I would look at their tiles and I would say, I want that one. The dragon tile goes there. These get put on top. So that's a very interesting element. It's kind of like a placeholder. But other than that, I mean, it's a pretty simple game. You play a tile, you move your piece, you draw a tile. Alright, so what is good and what is bad about Tsuro? Well, let's go down the line. The first meeple, art. Now the artwork is actually pretty good. From the box all the way down to the little dragon tokens, the artwork keeps with the theme and it really enhances this otherwise abstract game. So as far as the art meeple goes, I'm awarding Tsuro the whole meeple. Now let's talk about components. The components are going to last you a long time. The tiles are of a really thick grade cardstock. The instructions are very unique in the way that they package them. So even the rulebook is going to last you a while. And the board, the pieces, everything, good quality components that is sure to last you a long time. So as far as the component meeple goes, I'm awarding Tsuro the full meeple. Now, the gameplay. The big thing that costs 2 whole meeples. Is this game fun? Is the gameplay enjoyable? Well, yeah. This is a good filler game, and this is a very unique playstyle that I've only seen in one other game, and that game was the follow-up to this game. So the playstyle is very unique, and it is enjoyable. It does have the abstract element to it, but it's not overly abstract. It takes a little bit of thinking, but you don't have to overanalyze everything in order to play. Overall, it's a very relaxed play style. It goes very quickly. Now, the only real downside with the gameplay that I can think of is that there's a limited amount of tiles, so that if you're playing with a lot of people, then you're going to be passing around that dragon token like it's nobody's business. You're going to run out of tiles fairly quickly, and you're only going to have 4 or 5 rounds where you actually draw tiles from a stack, depending on the amount of people that you play with. And it is a little bit up to luck about what tiles you're going to get, who's going to be knocked out, what they have in their hand. So as far as the actual gameplay goes, I'm awarding Tsuro 1 3/4 of a meeple. Now, the everything else meeple, the price, the replayability, the it factor, is it going to hold its own on your game shelf? Now let's talk about price. Going into your local board game store, you can find this game for about $30-35 US, which is pretty good for what you get, especially since this is a game that can play 2 to 8 people and can last you a while. So, replayability. There is a limited amount of tiles. So, you're going to get the same tiles again and again if you keep playing this game long enough. And you're going to be able to start to keep track of what kind of tiles there are in the game. But since each tile is unique and it has different paths that you can take, the replayability is actually pretty good. So the it factor, everything else, is it going to hold its own on your game shelf? Sort of. You see, Tsuro was so popular that they came out with a sequel, Tsuro of the Seas, which had a little bit more strategy and a little bit more luck into it. So if you have the 2 on your shelf, you're probably going to go with Tsuro of the Seas, since it's slightly more complicated and has a little bit more substance to it. However, as far as filler games go, this one is very unique because it can incorporate up to 8 people. So as far as price, replayability, and the it factor, Tsuro is awarded 1/2 of a meeple. So, with art, with components, with gameplay, with replayability, with price, and with the it factor, Tsuro earns 4 1/4 meeples. Overall, this is a good filler game, and this is a game that you can bust out for 2 to 8 people, and it can keep them entertained for another 20 minutes while you wait for another game to finish. This is a game that is really simple and easy to pick up. However, if you want a filler game with more substance to it, the plain Tsuro might not be for you. If you like that review, go ahead and subscribe. I do reviews like this every single week, where I give you open and honest reviews to see if these games are good enough to be on your table, to be played by your family and your game group. There's a link in the description down below where you can go to YouTube and subscribe. You can also join me on Facebook for a little behind the scenes look and to suggest games that you would like to see me review in the future. And until next time, I'll see you at the game table.